Welcome everyone to our virtual 2020 PWS Family Conference presented by Levo Therapeutics. Before we begin today's presentation, let's first thank our amazing sponsors, Levo Therapeutics, Soleno Therapeutics, Harmony Biosciences, Rhythm Pharmaceuticals, Saniona, and Novo Nordisk. Their support has allowed us to make this conference free for all of our community members, and we are incredibly grateful for their contributions. We have come a long way in just the past few years, and because of the amazing support of our PWS community, the future is looking bright. In the past year alone, our community has supported the enrollment of 3 PWS clinical trials. 2 of these studies now have promising results and will likely begin the process of applying for new drug indications with the FDA this year. While this process could take a year or more, it's possible that by next fall, we could have our first treatment for Prader-Willi syndrome since growth hormone 20 years ago. This is a huge win for the entire PWS community, and we are incredibly grateful to the support that you have given us that has allowed for these achievements to be possible. Despite the progress we've made, however, as a parent, I can say this: I want more. I will never be satisfied until our loved ones can live independently. I want my son to experience life with the same opportunities as you and I know that with research, we can make this possible. The work that we are doing to advance PWS research has 100% been made possible by you and our PWS community. And the future of our loved ones with PWS continues to be dependent upon us, the families with loved ones. While COVID has turned all of our lives upside down, our need for funding has not changed. If anything, it has simply become more urgent. So I'm thrilled to have you joining us today as we talk about taking action for PWS research, and I hope that this is just the beginning of the conversation. Joining us today are 3 expert fundraisers, Sarah Peden, Jackie Maison, and Lisa Mattisbach. Each of our panelists have years of fundraising specifically for PWS research. And should you have any questions after today's webinar, you're welcome to reach out to any of them at the emails provided on this slide. So let's go ahead and begin today's presentation with a quick introduction from each of our panelists. Sarah, why don't you begin?
Hi, I'm Sarah Peden, and I've been fundraising with FPWR for over 10 years now. I have a daughter named Lily who is 11 years old, and she has Prader-Willi syndrome. And I now currently work for the foundation, specifically overseeing the One Small Step in DIY fundraising.
Hi everybody, I'm Jackie. I have been with the foundation for 5 years, and I help with our special events and our endurance programs.
Everyone, I'm Lisa Mattisbach. I am the PATH for PWS Study Coordinator, and I've been with FPWR for 2 years. I'm also a mom to a teenager with Prader-Willi syndrome, and my husband and I have hosted multiple One Small Step events in the last 6 years.
Thank you, guys. So now that we've heard who's our panelists on today's call, let's hear from our audience. We'd love to get to know a little bit more who's joining us today. So I'm going to launch a quick poll. And I do see that a couple of grandparents are joining us, and that if that's the case, when we're asking what's the age of your loved one, you would just put the age of your grandchild. So let us know, how old is your loved one with PWS? How comfortable are you with the idea of fundraising? I can tell you, when my son was first born and I attended my first conference, I was not very comfortable. I would have said very anxious, or I might not have even shown up to the presentation, if I'm going to be honest. And the last question is, how likely are you to fundraise for PWS research in the next year? So just take a second, let us know. This is going to help us understand who's on the call and how we can be of a better service to you as we're answering some questions. All right, so I ended the poll. We've got a great variety of ages representing here. About 30% of you are ages 0 to 2. But our largest audience member actually has children ages 6 to 12. That's about 50% of the people here joining us today. And 20% of you have loved ones over the age of 13 all the way through adulthood. how comfortable are you with fundraising? So one person is very comfortable. One. Oh, that was Sarah. Sarah answered the poll. About 30% of you are comfortable. And let's see, I have to do quick math. Almost 35% of you are either anxious or very anxious. So I feel for you guys. I definitely understand what that feeling feels like, but we're going to help you with that. And I think by the end of this session, you might feel a little differently. So let's go ahead and start going straight to questions to our panelists. Let's do our first question for Lisa. So Lisa, COVID has changed much of how the world works. Perhaps most notable is how we interact with each other. So you have hosted a kickball tournament fundraiser for years. How did you change your approach this year? And how did you go about asking for donations?
Great questions. So this year started off with our normal planning. We often host our first event in July in our hometown of Buffalo, New York. And our second event we host in the fall of the year in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where we live. So this year started off just like any other year. We were starting to gather all of our donations from companies so that we could have our raffle. But it quickly became clear that this was not going to be like any other year, and we would have to recalibrate our expectations. So, you know, at first our thought was of worry for our friends, for our family, for our community at large, people being safe and having to shelter in place, keeping you know, at the forefront of our attention, illness that people were experiencing and loss of jobs and other things. But I think as time went on, it became really clear that this was going to be a new normal for us for some time. And we started to think not just about the future in terms of weeks and months, but we kept coming back to our long-term goals. And that has always included the future of our son with Prader-Willi syndrome, who, as I mentioned before, is now a teenager. And so every year that passes, we become a little more anxious about treatments and opportunities for him to live independent. And so, you know, long ago we committed to being part of the mechanism for the solutions of how these challenges of PWS would be funded. How would research move forward without us participating in that solution? So we devote a lot of time and energy, emotional energy, to sharing our stories and advocating across multiple formats. We reach out to people in person when that's possible. We share a lot of information on social media and our stories about our son, not just the things that are going well, but the things that challenge us the most, because I think it's important for people to really understand the scope and breadth of the complexity of this syndrome. We also share things by you know, email and other formats, anything that reaches my community at large. And so, you know, we came back to the idea that, you know, 2019 was such an exciting year. It was the year that I have had the most hope for my son's future ever, given that there are multiple clinical trials that were occurring. And we don't want to lose this momentum. We want the research to continue, and that research gives us hope. So we made a decision not to stop advocating. In fact, we continued to press forward with our event, and we did it in a virtual format. And I'm really happy to say that we were able to meet our fundraising goal, which I was pleasantly surprised with and really humbled by everybody's generosity. I think one of the things that, if you haven't fundraised before, you come back to is that asking for donations can be uncomfortable even in the best of times for some of us. And we acknowledge that it's especially hard now, but I didn't want to give up. We've spent every moment since Evan was born fundraising in some capacity, and in more formally through the One Small Step program these last 6 years. And I just felt like, and my husband felt like, it was important for that to continue. So asking is difficult, but asking doesn't mean expecting. Asking just means providing an opportunity for others to support you if they can. And if they can't, that's okay. But that ask is also a part of the advocacy. It's about sharing your journey and sharing your story and getting parents of your friends and family and your community and others that touch your lives, your coworkers, your neighbors, to understand what it is like to live with somebody with Prader-Willi syndrome, because that's not going away for us. COVID will eventually go away, and all the things that we're doing to modify our efforts to fundraise, hopefully one day we'll get back to what we know is normal, but our children will still live every day with Prader-Willi syndrome. And so for us, for my family, for my husband and I, because it affects us every day and because our son deserves our best efforts, we want to keep that hope alive. So we simply ask. And I think you may be surprised by the number of people that actually say yes. I know I've been surprised this year. I had people that donated that had never donated before, and people will give when they can, but you have to share your story. You have to be of the mindset that it's okay to open your heart and to ask what you need and be surprised when people say yes, and that's great. One of the other things that we do is to make it very, very personal. We share thank yous in a very public manner, and we try to connect our story and how that person has impacted our son's life. So really just tying together what they have done to improve our life with our son. And I also like to share information about things that have been funded. For example, in 2014, when the DCCR pilot trial was funded by FPWR, who would have thought that in 6 short years, we would fast forward to a completed phase 3 clinical trial? And I can say that I'm proud to have been a part of that. I'm proud to have fundraised dollars that go to such transformative research. But again, that all comes back to asking. It comes back to being brave enough to put the question out there and see what you get in return.
Right. Now, Lisa, you're planning another event this fall in Atlanta, correct?
Yes, in November.
Fantastic.
So we've already started those fundraising efforts. You know, my birthday happens to fall in October, so it was a great time to launch my Facebook page and tie it to my birthday, because I knew that my Facebook page would get some traffic from friends and family that were coming to send me well wishes, and it resulted in several donations. So that was fantastic. And then we'll just continue to advocate throughout the rest of the month. And I'm encouraging my community members here who also have children with PWS to join me in that effort as they have in the past.
Wonderful. So while most of fundraising actually takes place online prior to the actual event, our One Small Step walks have traditionally culminated with an in-person congregation. So Sarah, how has One Small Step evolved over this past year?
Yeah, so over the past year, we have definitely taken a turn with COVID, but the whole goal of One Small Step is to bring the community together to fundraise. And so we wanted to keep that community feel going. Our very first virtual walk happened in April when our Thousand Oaks host was thrown into COVID, like many of us, trying to figure out what she was going to do to change her strategy last minute. And it actually went really, really well. She ended up reaching out to her friends and family all across the United States. And so now, instead of just having a local event where everyone got together, everybody that she knew across the United States was able to participate. So that was really exciting to see. It was exciting to see how they all came together to support her. People were not only fundraising, but they were also putting on their One Small Step shirts. They were going out and walking. They were taking photos. They were raising awareness. So it was really exciting to see that come together. And that was really our first experience with One Small Step during COVID. Then we had our Chicago area families and Deerfield follow suit. They were shortly after in early June. And they went with the same idea where they asked everyone, put on your old One Small Step shirt. If you don't have one, throw on a blue shirt. Our host had some extra shirts left over from previous events that she handed out to friends and family. We had a really great success with that. It was in a very short period of time. It blew me away. I want to say they raised 90% of what their goal was in the 2 weeks leading up, or 10 days leading up to the event. So it really shows that once they committed to, okay, we're going to do this, it worked. So that was also just really encouraging to see come together. The next one was in Hillsborough. There's the final collage of photos. And this was in later July when we had kind of gotten this under our feet, and we realized, okay, so in this area, some people are able to gather. It was a socially distanced gathering still, and she still asked people, you know, if you're not comfortable gathering, if you don't want to travel right now, we understand. And the families that typically travel 4 to 6 hours to go to this event, they were still participating and still fundraising in their own hometowns. And then the more local families joined together for a socially distanced one small step walk. The great thing about this was that they were still able to have their raffle online. So all of the aspects of their walk was still able to happen, with the exception of the 5K that they usually have with families. The next slide shows how we also took the idea of doing these remote but together walks, and we asked families in Indiana to chalk their walk. So that was a new idea that Natalie Brenneman actually made this video, and her husband Blake. So I wanted to show it to everybody in a second. But we encouraged everyone to do physical activity, to get out and move. By the time we had this walk, it was in September, and Indiana has had lower cases of COVID. So there were families that were able to get together in their neighborhoods and have a bake sale. And it was still a great time to be had for everyone who was able to get together, and also for everyone who had to still do this socially distanced or remote in their own homes. But I can show you the video really quickly. So you can see it was a fun, cheerful thing for the kids to get to do together. It was, I mean, everybody has access to sidewalk chalk, or just to go outside. And we encouraged people to, you know, ride their scooters, chalk their walk. We asked people if they wanted to do like relays, or no, what are they called? When you like chalk all the little activities to do. My kids enjoyed that so much. So that was another option that we had in Avon, and that actually went really well. I think Avon raised over $30,000 this year, which is a really big turnout for us. So it was exciting to see that during COVID and during a pandemic, we were able to actually exceed a goal that we would have had last year. The next slide shows some more options. The ever popular COVID birthday parade, we've kind of taken and turned it into a walk parade. So another organization actually calls this their Walk on Wheels, which I thought was really great. But it's a way that families or neighborhoods or communities can still get together and still be socially distanced, but have that excitement of seeing each other, celebrating. It's just such a fun thing. I think that one thing COVID has done for us has just given us the opportunity to think outside the box and find ways for people to still get together. And in some ways, I think it's made it a little fresher. It's given us more options, more things to do. And we're all just starving to see each other. So this is a great opportunity to be able to get out of your house, to see each other, and to really raise awareness. Oftentimes we do all of our fundraising virtually anyway. And so most of the fundraising is done prior to the event in any year. And then we get together and we celebrate that and we raise awareness. So this is still an opportunity to get all of those things achieved.
And it sounds like people have really gotten creative and are doing a lot of really fun activities. I would love to be a part of this car parade, especially if I knew that it was going to be benefiting my son and finding treatments for Prader-Willi syndrome.
Yeah, we had a family who's interested. They were in Louisiana, and the hurricanes have kind of squelched this for now, but they were interested in doing a remote color run too. And I thought that was a great idea. You could do that with the car parade. You can dye cornstarch and use that as a fun celebratory, colorful way to celebrate, still safely socially distanced.
Absolutely. So Jackie, you help FPWR fundraisers with their fundraising events and endurance efforts. In light of COVID, what type of events are happening this year and how can people get involved or start their own activities?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Sarah shared some great examples. The volunteer base with FPWR has just been so creative and just adapting to this new normal. And what we've found is 3 different methods have been really successful. The first is a virtual event, which I'll talk about right now. The second is a hybrid event, so some sort of in-person gathering. And then thirdly, it's just reaching out through a letter campaign or through social media and just asking your network to donate. With a virtual event, we have had both new types of events that we didn't have before, and then also events that were supposed to be in person that have adapted to a virtual format. So we've got a couple of really great ideas. We had a sausage festival that took place in August where our hosts turned it into almost like a cooking show. It was very interactive, very fun. They had 2 hilarious comedians MC the whole event, and it ended up being like a party that you got to take place sitting from your desk or watching on your television or wherever you decided to view it. We've had people do raffles, which have been really successful during this time, holding a raffle online, setting a minimum. So if you only have 100 opportunities, it creates a certain sense of urgency. People have taken their hobbies and themes and put it into virtual events. So Halloween's coming up. If you want to do a costume gathering, it's a great way to get people together. You could either, drop some goodies at people's houses if you're going to do it local and charge a ticket price, or you just have people hop on for a donation request. So, and then we've got a bunch of great opportunities that FPWR is hosting ourselves. So we've got an art auction that takes place throughout the year. We do it a couple times a year that Melissa Demand can get you in contact for next steps if you'd like to participate in that. We've also got a virtual cocktail party that we're working into our fall activities. So it's really just about finding what works best for you, what sounds fun to you, what sounds fun to your friends and family, and what is not going to seem like work, but is going to seem like a celebration. So the next type of event is a hybrid event. Our hybrid events are either a socially distanced in-person event. Our golf tournaments have been a great example of this. So we've had golf tournaments that have taken place already that have been able to successfully meet in person in their own cart at a distance. It's a great way. It feels like a normal outing during the day for golfers. They feel like it's an activity that has not changed due to COVID. And then we've partnered with this great company called Flex Golf Fundraisers for our hosts that are hosting our Prader-Willi golf tournament. And they are doing a month-long golf tournament, which actually starts next week if anybody's interested. But you can golf any day, anytime from any course, and you can add your score. Your score gets calculated with this Flex Golf Fundraiser software. And you could do a foursome, you could do a twosome, you could grab a couple people to go out there and gather. So it creates a sense of competition. It's really fun, but you can do it safely. We've got tons of different ideas. People are doing virtual 5Ks with also an in-person component. Our Harvesting Hope race that happens every year our hosts have found a great way to have people join virtually if they don't feel comfortable joining in person, or if they do feel comfortable joining in person, limiting the amount of people that start at the same time at a distance safely, as well as there's picnic in the park fundraisers. And it's not a picnic, maybe you want to do wine, and you can have people pay for a goodie basket full of goods, and they can social distance with their family on a picnic blanket. You can also do that virtually by dropping off the supplies to someone's house, and they can do it in their yard. The charity garage sale is a great way to get people involved. If they don't feel comfortable attending, they can donate stuff to your garage sale, and all proceeds can go to FPWR. So there's some really fun.
Can I say, I wanted to just go back to the Pars for Peyton golf tournament, because I think that this is such a creative, exciting opportunity. So for folks who are on the line, I don't golf, my husband doesn't golf, but we know a lot of people who do golf. So we're inviting all of our friends to go find a foursome and to participate in the golf tournament, because they can do it from their favorite golf course. They don't have to go anywhere else. And frankly, they're going to be golfing anyway. So now they can golf for a cause. And if their spouse perhaps didn't want them spending another 4 hours golfing this weekend or next weekend, now they've got a reason to. So if you have friends who know how to golf or who like golf or just need an excuse to go golfing, spread the word about this event. It's a great way to get involved, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time on your part.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it seems to be a great excuse is what we found, either with your work to take a weekday off to golf for a half day, or with your significant other, like Susan said, because you're golfing for a good cause. So we're helping all the golfers is how we see it, get a day on the course. So yeah, the Snyder family, who has hosted this every year, has found a really great way to make this work nationally or even internationally if people golf. And people who live out of the country. So yeah, thanks, Susan. That's a great point. And then also what we found, if an event is not for you, both virtually or in person, we have found that a letter writing campaign has been super successful this year, in addition to fundraising efforts on your fundraising website or through Facebook. I don't know about everybody, but for me, I get so many bills and advertisements in the mail, and we're all home more now. So to see something in the mail that isn't your trash bill or your water bill is really nice. And it's a really great way to share your family story and an update on your child or your loved one with PWS. Lisa does a wonderful job with this. She just mentioned a little bit of how she shares her story, but it gives people the opportunity to see how your family's doing. And then it allows them to donate if they can. And if they can't, then you're just simply sharing an update and, letting them know how you guys are doing during this time. So it's always nice to reach out to your near and dear. And it seems like it hits a little bit more now with people being home and not, having as much face-to-face interaction. This is a nice alternative. So,
Jackie, we just had a question come in about those letters. Are there any templates available so that people have a starting point?
Yeah, so both Sarah and myself, we would encourage you to not reinvent the wheel. We have tons of resources, whether it's letters or flyers or anything you need. If we don't have it, we're happy to make it. So if we can help anybody at all, please, please, please let us know. But we also will be sending out an email after this session that will have a sample letter template, as well as a few other best practices and tips to get started on your fundraising.
Great. Okay, what was our next slide, Melissa? Do we have another slide? There we go. All right. So do-it-yourself fundraising has become very popular in the past few years. Sarah, perhaps you could give us an idea of what do-it-yourself fundraising is and share some of the fun and creative ideas that have been used this year for do-it-yourself fundraising.
Yeah, so the great thing about do-it-yourself fundraising is that it has changed very little because of COVID. So the great thing about it is you pick what you want to do. Oftentimes people will pick their hobbies, what they're good at, something that they're already sort of doing in their lives. So for example, Ted Palin, who has done his vertical ski challenge every year for Prader-Willi syndrome, he likes to challenge himself to see how many feet he can ski in a 24-hour period. So he fundraises using that, and he gets his friends involved to do it with him. And every year he has a blast. I get to see all of his photos. So I always wish I could go out to Colorado and do it with him. But that's just one example of how DIY fundraising has been used before. We have a lot of great athletes who use this. We have a page specifically set up for athletic fundraising. And another example is the summiting for PWS. So this family has done this the last 3 years, where they summit a 14er, also in Colorado, to raise awareness and fundraise for their nephew who has Prader-Willi syndrome. So that is another example of using our DIY fundraising. We also have a lot of people who run their own 5Ks or train for half marathons, and the DIY platform is literally as simple as signing in, clicking on register for events, and creating your page. You can put your story on there and then just share it with everybody you know. That is where you can collect donations and just share your story. Another fun example that came out of COVID during PWS Awareness Month was karaoke. So this mom decided she wanted to raise awareness and she wanted to fundraise for PWS. She actually really wanted to host a One Small Step walk, but because of COVID, she decided for her first walk, she'd put that off for a little while and do this instead. And it was so cool to see. She updated it on Facebook constantly, and people would donate, and then she would do a karaoke song for them. So it was a great way. She also got her kids involved, which was fun. And honestly, it just brightened up everybody's Facebook news feeds for the month. It's a great way to get your friends and family involved. Facebook fundraising's come a long way too. You can, the great thing about our fundraising program is that you can automatically connect it to Facebook, so that every time somebody donates or you update, it lets all of your friends and family know, and it syncs right along with it. So it's such a fun, DIY is such a fun fundraising option if that's something that you're interested in. I'm always happy to talk to people who are interested in this. If you have an idea, or even if you don't have an idea, oftentimes our brainstorming sessions can come up with some really fun and creative ideas.
Absolutely. You know, as Sarah's saying, if you have an idea and you're not exactly sure how to execute it, our team talks to 100 people a year about different ideas, and they've heard it all, and they can help you really generate an activity that works for you.
Yeah, for example, something that I've done, especially with the dads, they get really into is bracket challenges. So if it's, I mean, it could be fantasy football, it could be Big Ten tournaments, and now that sports are coming back, praise the Lord, we can actually do these things now. So if anyone has, you know, anything you enjoy or you just like, even if it's not an activity that you participate in necessarily, but something that you and your friends enjoy doing together. I had actually, Lisa, I think it was your brother-in-law, had a cups tournament, like a.
It was my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hosted a pong tournament, a beer pong tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she was like, he actually did it on the fly. He was like, don't tell Lisa till it's over.
I did. It was a secret, and it was a Mother's Day surprise to me. So he called me on Mother's Day and said, I did this in honor of you and Evan.
Yeah, that was great. So we can literally turn anything into a fun fundraising idea.
I love it. I love the creativity, and who wouldn't participate in a beer pong tournament, right? So this year, the foundation launched a new fundraising challenge called the 15 for 15 Challenge. Jackie, could you tell us a little bit about this challenge and how families can get involved here?
Yeah, of course. So when you're not playing beer pong, if you want to get out and do some physical activity, normally each year we partner with the New York City Marathon and the Rock and Roll Marathon, and it's been a really great way to get people out there as a group and spread awareness, and not only raise funds, but you get to wear, you know, FWR branded shirts, you get to have all of this outreach with thousands and thousands of runners that you wouldn't have been able to do so before. And what we found is that people really miss that endurance challenge and being able to set not only a fundraising goal, but a fitness goal. So this year we implemented the 15 for 15 challenge. And it has been really great so far. People have picked a hobby. It doesn't have to be 15 miles. It could be from the couch to, 15 laps around your cul-de-sac. It could be anything. So you pick a challenge that works for you. You set a fundraising goal and you reach out to people to not only help you achieve your fundraising goal, but see if they'll do it too, so that they can reach out to their network too. It's a great way to get friends and family involved, kids, to get everybody out there and active. And it's been, a really great opportunity, especially in the early start of COVID, for people to, get outside or commit to something and have an activity that they look forward to each day. And it's just a fun way to get other people involved as well. So the 15 for 15 challenge is on our website. We're also happy to chat with anybody if they, want a little bit more information on how to get started, or maybe they need to, want some help with their challenge idea. We're here to help.
Great. A statement that we hear from a lot of folks is, I don't know if I have time to do this. Jackie, how can FPWR help support fundraisers to make this as simple a process as possible?
Yeah, so I feel like everyone has a few less minutes in their day during this time. The days feel shorter, they are going quicker. So we would just really encourage everyone to reach out to our development team. Sarah and myself are always happy to hop on the phone. We've got, I know I mentioned before, but we have so many resources and so many tools. So whether it's, helping you, if you want to add sponsors, we can create you a sponsor packet. If you just want to send a letter out to your friends and family, we can type up that letter for you and you can add your personal component to it. We can set up websites for you, your ticket pages, we can help you really any and all steps of the way so that you can focus on sharing your story. And if you do decide to do an event or an activity, focus on the fun aspect of fundraising. You can put the fun in fundraising, for my cheesy phrase, but yeah.
Thanks so much, Jackie. So we are going to go into Q&A from our audience attendees. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A chat. We've got a couple that have already been submitted, and we're just going to start rolling through them. We'll try to get to as many of these questions as possible. If at the end of today's session you still have questions, or you have a question that you'd like to speak with directly to Sarah or Jackie, Lisa, or myself, please feel free to email us. We're going to put our contact information into the chat box so you can copy and paste it. It's really easy to get to. But we really do want to hear from you. And again, as I said at the beginning of today's presentation, we hope that this is just the beginning of the conversation. We'd really like to be able to continue to have that contact with you. So this is a great question, Sarah, and one that I think that we hear a lot is it expensive to host an event?
Sorry, I was muted. No, it should not be expensive to host an event. In fact, it shouldn't cost anything at this point. So we really strive to work on donations for events. So for instance, if you're going to have a walk, oftentimes I suggest reaching out to the community that you know. So your schools, your churches, your community centers, your neighborhood ballparks, places that would be available, either free, donated, or very small charged. Everything else that comes with it. So we do supply the t-shirts for the One Small Step walks. So that is not at a cost to you. We also do reimbursements based on the amount that you fundraised. So if there is a cost that occurs, let's say that you need to get water bottles and you couldn't get, the local Kroger to donate them, which typically they will, then things like that we can reimburse. So events should not be expensive. I know Jackie has sort of a different layer of events than I do, since hers are typically on a larger scale, and those go through board approval. So it's really based on the conversations that we have with you prior to your event. We'll make sure that it makes sense for you and for the organization.
Right. And
Can I add one? Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Lisa.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
add one thing. So, you know, my husband works really hard to get everything donated. I can't think of a single thing we've ever purchased for an event, including like the big banners. He will write to 20 companies and keep writing until he gets a donation. So everything from the banners to the supplies that we use just to set up to all of our raffles, everything that we've ever had has all been donated. So we've incurred very little cost. The spaces when we've held things in person, they've always been like the fields at the local schools. So we just contact the school board and say, can we have access to the field? So there's ways that you can get things. It does take, you know, a letter writing campaign, but we have a standard letter, and you know, Jackie and Sarah both mentioned before, FPWR has letters that you can use. I always personalize it with a little story about my son and why, you know, their donation will help our community. So there's ways to get all of that done.
This is also a great opportunity to reach out to your local PWS families. I know where I live, the closest other families to us are about an hour away, but we all band together to do our walk. So it's really helpful when you get more families involved. It's just the more people you know, the more support you can get.
You know, our mantra at FPWR has always been keep it simple. So we're here to help you. We can help you streamline. And absolutely, we don't want expenses to be a barrier to fundraising. So contact our team if you have any questions about that. We'll figure it out together. So Lisa, this is a great question for you. What happens if I can't hold my event in person as planned? This has happened a little bit this year.
It has. And, you know, for us, the event is about community, but it's also about getting out and spending time together as a family, and just the, you know, the exercise that we get, because we do our event as a kickball. We do that because it's, you know, it's low impact, except for the people that get crazy and want to win. But, you know, we get out and do it together still as a family. So this year, what we did was we encouraged all of our friends and family to put on their One Small Step t-shirts, go to their local park, play in their backyard. But to all, you know, continue to think about PWS on that day. So what we did was we went down to our neighborhood park where we have a ball field, and we put on our One Small Step shirts, brought our dogs. It was a party of 6 with all of us, and we played kickball. And then I live streamed it on Facebook and just continued to shout out thank yous to everybody that had, you know, previously donated, who had supported us in any way over these many years, and just to let them see, like, this is Evan's progress and Evan's successes are all tied to everything that they have done to support us. The research that's contributed to all the knowledge that we now have as parents allows us to raise him and make sure he's healthy and thriving. And all of that is because of everybody's support that we've had in these many years that we've known about his diagnosis. So it's really about being creative. It's about still sharing your story, and however that makes sense to do that for you. But I find that social media is a really great way to reach out to people, especially as Sarah mentioned, you know, people want to see good news. They want to see things that brighten their day. They want to see that they, you know, are making a difference for you because they love you and they want to help you. So I think it's about just sharing that day, even if you couldn't come together as a community, letting people know that the impact that they have had has been monumental, and you are so grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our next question coming in. This person says, I want to do something, but I'm not sure what. What should I do next to get started? Jackie, could you respond to that question?
Sure. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it in the other slide, but really just reaching out to Sarah or myself, we really are happy to help. And that's usually the best way to get started. We can share with you ideas that our other amazing volunteers have done in the past. If you have a hobby that you want to, try to turn into a fundraiser, we can chat and see how you can make it work. So really for next steps, I would say just reach out to us and we can get a conversation going. We're really mindful that, everyone's time commitment is different. Everyone's network is different. Everyone's fundraising comfort level is different. So, we really just want to do what works best for you. And we're happy to help any way we can.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jackie. Next question. We have found such joy this year jumping into fundraising for FPWR. How do you fight the law of diminishing returns when hosting regular fundraising opportunities? Sarah or Jackie, do you want to take that question?
Sure, I can take it. That's a great question. I feel like, the first year of a fundraising event, it's all about trying to figure out what works best, how to make it work, what doesn't work. So you go into your second year and you go into your third year, and naturally, I feel people start to see fatigue. And so what we recommend is each year adding some like special components. And maybe it's a raffle that you didn't have the year before. Maybe you change up your swag bag if you have one to have different different activities or different things. But ultimately, your friends and family are giving to you because of your connection to PWS. So they're going to donate. If they can donate, they will donate. And if you need to change up your event so that it adds different components to keep things new and fresh for people, not directly connected to you, then that's an option. But I would say no matter what, your close network will support you regardless of what the event is.
Yeah, I think I could speak to that too. I've been fundraising for 10 years now for FPWR, and my daughter's 11, and I felt this after probably the first 3 years. And that's when I reached out to the other families in the area and asked them, would you like to join me? Can we do this in your community? Because they were all driving an hour to my community, but I could drive an hour to theirs. And I've also found that over time, the same people are still as invested in Lily's future as they were when she was first born. Those people, they love her. They want to see her future brighter. I have shared over the years, even when I'm not fundraising, the steps that FPWR is taking to make her future brighter. And so they know where their investment's going, and they see the return on their investments. They see these clinical trials. They see her participating in trials. They see all of the great information that FPWR puts out on the Facebook page that I share. So I really feel like because I keep them updated, and I also make it a point every Christmas when we send out our Christmas letter to send a little update and a thank you, just letting them know we still appreciate that you're doing this, and there's still much work to be done. So I think to be honest, people just love your children and they want to support you. They just need to know how.
Great, thank you. This is a technical question regarding our fundraising platforms. So Josh, we do use 2 different fundraising platforms. We use our TeamRaiser platform for peer-to-peer fundraising, and then we have another platform called Give Lively, which is actually a nonprofit itself. It's called Give. You would see the URL is givelively.org. We use this website for specific events that have different requirements, perhaps, than what can be supported using our other system. So if you see that URL and you're confused, it doesn't say fpwr.org, but it says givelively.org. It's simply a payment processor. All of the funds do come to FPWR. And in fact, what we really love about Give Lively is that they don't take any percentage of your transaction. So FPWR will get 100%. We don't lose anything to the platform system itself.
Susan, just to speak on that quickly. So I think this is a great example of us just adapting with the time. So if you find that there's something that your fundraiser needs that we don't have on one software, but we may be able to have it on the other, we'll adapt with you. So we're very flexible. We're always happy to try to make whatever works best for you and whatever you want to see on your personal fundraiser work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have a mom who really wants to get involved, but she's not ready to tell her network yet about the diagnosis. Any advice from our other moms here?
Yeah, this is not uncommon. I've talked with many parents who are just not there yet. They're not ready to share the diagnosis with the world, and they're not, they want to get involved, and it can be a sensitive time to do that. So I think the best thing to do is to hop on a phone call with me, and I can talk to you about some ways that we could do this. I also would talk to you about when you are ready to share, how you could do that. I've walked a number of parents do that. I've done it myself. And I know that it feels like a very sensitive thing to share for the first time. You don't want your child to be labeled. You don't want people to Google it. You don't want them to have these, ideas in their mind that maybe don't apply to your child. So I completely understand. I also think that we have some really great opportunities, and Jackie could elaborate on this a little bit more, but we have some things coming up. We have a virtual 5K that's coming up for the holidays around Thanksgiving. That's something that people could get involved in internationally. We also, like she said, the Pars for Peyton. So it could be something that you just say, a loved one of mine has Prader-Willi syndrome. This is near and dear to my heart. I would love to participate in this if you could support me. And that's one way to do it for now while you're still just, waiting. But I would love to talk to you just on the phone. And even if you want to talk about, how to share with your family members, sometimes I think someone's on this call right now that I actually did this with recently. They went all in and did it on Facebook, and I don't think they have any regrets on that. And then I have other families who we started with a small circle, and you start with your immediate family, and then you go to your immediate friends, and then you go to maybe your church group or your tight-knit groups. So I would love to talk with you about that. And you can call me. My email address is in the comments. And if you send me an email, I'll send you my phone number.
Awesome. So a comment from an audience member, Brooke says, that was so us last year. Donate personally now and fundraise when you're ready. Sarah was so helpful with us when I was ready. So thank you so much, Brooke, for sharing that. I think it helps to hear from other new families. Lindsay says, Sarah, I'll be in contact.
Oh, thanks. So. This is, I love you guys. This is my favorite. I love talking to new moms. I love talking to new dads. So let's be friends.
Another comment, this is from Linda in the audience. She's just reminding us, FPWR can provide formal donation receipts since we're a nonprofit for donors' tax records. So if someone donates an item to your raffle or for your walk, we can provide them with a letter that just says, yes, they donated an item, so that they can use that for their tax records. And whenever anyone makes a personal donation, we do provide tax receipts so that they can use those on their taxes. So it looks like I have one final question in the queue, which is perfect because it's actually time for us to start wrapping up. So the last question we have here is, in light of COVID, how can I be sensitive to my network when asking for financial support? Lisa, do you think you could attack that question?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the things that was at the forefront of our minds when we decided to still host our event in the summer. I think you can still support the other needs of your community and be sensitive to those needs. I mean, asking for a donation doesn't mean that those other community needs aren't valid. You can highlight those as well in your efforts. Maybe you turn your event into something that kind of combines those things and highlights what's really important. I think, again, it goes back to asking and sharing your story. If you ask parents, friends, neighbors, coworkers, you're offering an opportunity to share with them about what your day-to-day is like with your child. And it offers an opportunity for support, but it also gives them a chance to say, that's something I'd like to contribute to. And so you can do it in such a way that is, sort of gentle and is, just about advocacy. That's why Facebook is so great, because I just will share an update about my son, and in the bottom, there will be a little donate button. So it's not intrusive. It's not asking people in a very overt way. If that's something that makes you feel uncomfortable, it can be as simple as saying, hey, look at my son, he learned to write his name today. We're so excited after all these years of OT, and it's been so great. We just want to celebrate. And then at the bottom, it'll have a little, donate to FPWR. And maybe you share a story about, a research project that FPWR has funded and how that has changed your child's life and how it makes a difference for you every day. I think those are the things that capture people's attention most. And at the end of the day, people want to support you. They want good things to happen for you and for your child. They want to celebrate the successes too. And if they can give, they will give. And they want that good feeling that comes from being a part of that, because they know that your life and your child's life is directly impacted in a very positive way. So, you know, I'm also very clear to make lots of thank yous overtly over and over. You know, we're always humbled by the generosity of everybody. So just sharing and advocating, I think, is a great first step to being the hope that your child needs for his future or her future.
Absolutely. So I'd like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. And in closing, I'd just like to say our team is here to help you with your fundraising efforts. Whether this is your first fundraising experience or your 100th, we're happy to brainstorm with you, provide you with resources, or just be a sounding board as you flesh out your ideas. I'd like to thank all of you personally for joining us for today's webinar and taking action for PWS research. As I've said earlier, the work that we're doing to advance PWS research is 100% made possible by the amazing contributions of our community members. And together, I have no doubt that we can and we will find treatments for our loved ones with PWS. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope that we'll see you at our afternoon sessions. Have a great day.